How do you compare the implications of using mediation in a divorce proceeding versus hiring divorce attorneys and going and fighting it out in court? There's really two main factors that are driving that. The biggest one is there a real interest in trying to have an ongoing relationship and a working relationship with your former spouse for the sake of children off into the future or not? And what's the level of assets involved? And how forthright is your divorcing spouse in terms of how they're approaching the whole process? The reason why the assets levels matter is because it's much more expensive to hire divorce attorneys and fight in court than it is to use mediation. And that's kind of clear. However, if one spouse is really kind of arguing heavily for something that is just does not have good legal ground and is just really fighting and trying to maintain, not being realistic about what is going to be an actual split, then there may be no choice but to go ahead and hire divorce attorneys. But if there's even that level of disagreement, and yet the amount of assets that you're dealing with is relatively small, if it's $100,000, $200,000, that you're fighting over, and that's the value of the equity in the home or something, and you're going to get an approximation, even if it's not the complete full split that you would get if you went through the divorce proceedings. The reality is that you may be getting more than what you would get if you went through the divorce process and had to pay all those legal fees to the divorce attorneys. But if there's millions and millions of dollars that are at stake, and there's not a realistic assessment about what really a split in assets are as a starting point, then there may be no choice, and it may be financially worthwhile to go through the much more acrimonious divorce proceeding with attorneys. So there's not an absolute answer one direction or the other, but depending upon your circumstances and depending upon whether the two of you really want to have some ability to work together around, for the sake of your children, then mediation is clearly a more effective option if the two of you can agree enough going into it.